Imagine a city built on water, a place where streets are canals, boats replace cars, and palaces seem to float on the waves. This is Venice, one of the most unique and powerful cities in history. But how did this floating city come to be? And how did it rise from a swampy lagoon to a global superpower? Today, we are diving into the fascinating story of Venice's formation and its rise to dominance. We will talk about its ingenious beginnings, its golden age of trade, and even its most famous adventurer, Marco Polo. Let's get started. Venice's story begins in the 5th century Common Era, during the collapse of the Western Roman Empire. As barbarian invasions swept across Italy, people fled to the safety of the Venetian lagoon, a marshy, isolated area in the Adriatic Sea. At first, life here wasn't easy. The lagoon was a swampy, mosquito-infested wilderness. But the settlers had one advantage: the water protected them from invaders. They built their homes on wooden pilings driven into the mud, creating the first foundations of what would become Venice. Here is something you might not know. Those wooden pilings, they are still there today, holding up the city. Because the pilings were driven deep into the mud, they have been preserved by the lack of oxygen, essentially petrifying over time. That is why Venice has not sunk yet. Over time, these scattered settlements grew into a unified city. By the 9th century, Venice had become a thriving trading hub, thanks to its strategic location between the Byzantine Empire and Western Europe. But this was just the beginning. Venice's rise to power was built on two things: trade and innovation. The Venetians were master sailors and merchants. They built a powerful navy and a fleet of trading ships that connected Europe to the riches of the East. Spices, silk, and other luxury goods flowed through Venice, making it one of the wealthiest cities in the world. But Venice wasn't just about money, it was also about politics. The city developed a unique system of government led by a doge, which is a sort of elected king, and a council of powerful families. This system kept Venice stable and allowed it to focus on expanding its influence. One of Venice's biggest breakthroughs came during the Fourth Crusade in 1204. Instead of fighting in the Holy Land, the Venetians convinced the Crusaders to attack Constantinople, the capital of the Byzantine Empire. The city was sacked, and Venice claimed a huge portion of the spoils, including the famous horses of St. Mark, which still adorns St. Mark's Basilica today. By the 13th century, Venice was a maritime empire, controlling key ports and islands across the Mediterranean. Its wealth and power were unmatched, and its influence stretched from Europe to the Middle East. Now, let us talk about Venice's most famous son, Marco Polo. Born in 1254, Marco Polo was a merchant, explorer, and adventurer who became one of the most famous travelers in history. But here is something you might not know. Marco Polo's journey began with a common Venetian business practice. Wealthy Venetian merchants often sponsored young men to travel and trade in distant lands. The merchants would provide the funds, and in return, they would split the profits with the young adventurers. Marco's father, Niccolo, and uncle, Maffeo, were seasoned traders who had already traveled to Asia. When they decided to return in 1271, they brought 17-year-old Marco along. The Polo family struck a deal with Venetian merchants to fund their journey, with the promise of sharing the profits from their trade. Marco spent 17 years in Asia, serving as an envoy for Kublai Khan, the Mongol Emperor of China. When he returned to Venice in 1295, he brought back incredible stories and incredible wealth. His book, The Travels of Marco Polo, introduced Europeans to the wonders of the East, from paper money to gunpowder. It became one of the most influential travelogues in history and cemented Venice's reputation as a gateway between East and West. But Marco Polo wasn't the only reason Venice thrived during its golden age. The city became a center of art, culture, and innovation. Artists like Titian and Tintoretto made Venice a hub of Renaissance painting, while architects designed stunning palaces and churches that still awe visitors today. Here is a fun fact: Venice was also a pioneer in glassmaking. The island of Murano, just off Venice, became famous for its glassblowers, who created intricate and colorful glassware that was highly prized across Europe. The Venetians were so protective of their glass-making secrets that they banned glassblowers from leaving the city on pain of death. Venice's dominance wouldn't last forever. The discovery of new trade routes to the Americas and Asia in the 15th and 16th centuries shifted the balance of power. European nations like Spain and Portugal began bypassing Venice, trading directly with the East. At the same time, Venice faced new threats from the Ottoman Empire, which conquered many of its territories in the eastern Mediterranean. By the 18th century, Venice's power had waned, and in 1797, the city fell to Napoleon Bonaparte. But even as its influence declined, Venice remained a symbol of resilience and ingenuity. Its legacy lives on in its art, architecture, and the enduring allure of its canals. From a swampy refuge to a global superpower, Venice's story is one of creativity, ambition, and adaptability. It is a reminder that even the most unlikely places can become centers of greatness. What do you think was the key to Venice's success? Was it its location, its government, or something else? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do not forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more fascinating stories from history. See you next time.